Good morning, healing friends. What a week. What a number of months. What a year. What a number of years. What almost 28 years it's been in this cleansing process that was initiated in 1997. And there was physical cleansing from 97 to 2004 and mental cleansing from 2004 to 2011. Emotional cleansing from 2011 to 2018, and then spiritual cleansing from 2018 to the present, but it will be 2018 to March 24th of 2025. Some of you who have heard me say March 23rd of 2025 can understand that it's okay for a person to change their mind, heart as well, when they get just a bit more information. So it's only changed it by a day. So I felt like the completion was March 23rd because I had calculated from the incarnation of the soul of the earth, the being who is to become the soul of the earth for 13,000 years. It's hard to imagine for me being anywhere for very long, let alone 13,000 years. And maybe at some point, Abrahamanad will speak through me. Not so far, but at some point. I'm sure all these beings are associated with each other. Well, they are. They're in that other level where they're all working as a team. And seeing what can be done about getting those light beings, such as us, to begin to work as a team, to begin to work as one, and to bring that whole state of oneness into physical form in our relationships. So there's many beings who are not in bodies assisting those beings, such as you and me, who are in bodies, to navigate these waters of change, to navigate the airs of change, to navigate the earths of change, to navigate the sun of change. That'd be a good moniker. I'm a son of change. Because it's just constantly changing. They call, they being people I grew up with, maybe the people that you grew up with, they talked about different things. From my perception, they didn't know about very much. A lot of it just sounded like strange stories that kept being told by the various people of the various churches, and whatever the story of those churches was, those were the stories that just kept being repeated. And so we all have based our reality, our construct of reality, on stories. And in the dream world, this was back in 2020, I do a lot of work at night in the dream world, and I have attended for, at least 14 years night school where those of us who need special help, it's, uh, the first school was the school for delinquent shaman. It cracked me up when I was told that. Like, what is this school? They said, it's the school for delinquent shaman. I said, what does that mean? And they said, think about it. Reform school on a shamanic level. Like, yeah, you as a being have this knowledge and these abilities, and how have you used them? Is there a lot of debris behind you as you've just run over the cones with your car in front of you, which I did one time. 17 years old, was going up to Canada, I think with my, could have just, I don't think it could have been, I can't remember, but I don't think it could have been just my mother and I driving, I think it was 1,600 miles from Los Angeles to Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So I can't believe that would have been just the two of us. So I'm guessing I was 17, so my younger brother would have been 13. So I would guess that he was being taken along with us, but I don't have the memory of that. But my mother was having me drive, and we were driving through mountains in Montana. And I don't know if they had painted or what they had done, but they had, this mountain road, they had put all these cones, those orange cones to keep you from driving into a particular area. And the cones were all set one in front of the other for a mile or two in the center of the highway. I had no idea why they would have those cones. Probably never figured it out, but I was on the right side, driving. It was in the mountains, but not, steep or anything. It was kind of a flat area through the mountains. And my mother was asleep. And I just wondered what it would be like to run over the cones. And so I did. Just kept running over them. Just kept looking out rearview mirror and watching these. They were probably rubber at the time. Watching these cones just bouncing behind me. And I didn't find that I could just stop doing it. I just kept doing it for a mile or two. The station wagon I was driving. And finally one clunked underneath the car right at the end. And my mother said, "What was that?" And I pulled into the right, correct lane. It was only one lane each way. And I said, I must have run into something. And my mother turned around, and it was just like a field of orange hole. Now, I'm getting this off my chest because a 17-year-old might not think about the consequences of their behavior. I didn't think about the fact that it could cause someone to have an accident, or the amount of work it was going to cause someone, and the dangerous work to go and collect these cones off the highway. And I think that a lot of times in previous lives, we've made decisions based on emotions. And I would say, if you're making your decision based on emotions, you're not necessarily making a decision, you're reacting to emotions. And the emotions are motivating a response. And if we're triggered and maybe we have fear coming up, or anger coming up, or grief coming up, these emotions come up and we need to do something with them. So we decide we're going to do this, and then we just do that. And that creates that interaction, maybe with another, maybe with a cone. Maybe I wasn't emotionally reacting to that cone. I just had a stupid thought, like, what would it be like to drive over these cones? And then in my personality in this lifetime, personality card is the Fool. And my soul card, my life card, like what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, is the Emperor. So so I bought a book, Finding the Fool by Meg Jones Wall. I've read some of her stuff out loud, and it's meant a lot to me as I was reading it. So I never know, or I don't often know where I'm going. When I begin doing a video, I just talk, and I watch what I'm talking about, and I don't necessarily know the influence I'm having, but I have an intention that my influence assists whoever watches these videos to heal. And I don't have a strong idea what that will look like, but I have the idea that healing is the release of the past, the cones of our past, the things we might have run over, possibly the people we might have run over with our thoughtlessness, how we may have never come to a place of maturity, not become old, because, when it comes to food, people say, do you think this is too old? And people say, I'm starting to look old. But the choice is to get older or not. Those are your two options. You get older, or you stop getting older. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to act old, but if you have an idea about old people, and you have it based on numbers, and maybe your idea is, when I'm 70, I'm going to be retired, and I'm going to sit in front of a television, and I'm going to watch sporting events continuously. And I'm not going to play sports. I'm not going to stay in good shape. I'm going to just stare at people who appear to be in good shape. And I'm going to just sit here until I die, which quite possibly could be sooner. When you're taking action like that, maybe I'll just eat chips or popcorn or sandwiches or Tostitos or whatever, and drink beer while I watch sporting events, while I watch other people staying in shape. Whatever it is, whatever's in that consciousness. I'm not attempting to put that into consciousness. I'm just saying that is in certain people's consciousness as they get old. That they have so much liked the weekends because they got to watch people play sports that their goal in life is when they retire to be able to just watch people play sports every day. And that's possibly finding the fool. So I may have answered the question of the book, Finding the Fool. What is finding the fool? Well, it's coming up with really bad ideas and following through with them. Okay, but there's another way to look at the fool. And there's, I think I'm right about this, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to look it up first before I say it. Yeah, I'm just going to say it. And if it turns out at the end it's not true, then I'll do a auto correction or self correction, or and you won't necessarily read it, but I'm just going to say that there are 22 cards in what's called the major arcana. There's the major arcana, the minor arcana. The major arcana relates to large changes in consciousness that we're going through. So when we get these cards, so in the last reading I did, we got 3 cards. I think the first one was the Wheel of Fortune, which had to do about steering, steering your own direction. That was about the past. The present was the Chariot card, which is about our journey moving forward in the chariot, in some ways pulled by these 4 beasts. I think there's Taurus the bull, and I think there's the eagle, and then the human animal, and then possibly one other. So again, these things are what we learn as we go along through this. And of course, being a person of 73 years and remembering much of those 73 years and remembering much of the personality that I've had during these 73 years, it's not surprising to me to find my sense of humor being that. Currently, my sense of humor, when I read this word, it took me back to when I was 5, 6 years old. I'll see if it comes out. But the Fool card would be the number 22, but the Fool card is 0, because in the numbering system there's got to be a 0. Otherwise you can only count to 9. So the Fool card is the 22nd card. In actual, if you count the number of cards, 22nd card. But the Fool card is the 0. So if your birth date adds up to the number 22, it makes you a fool for life relative to your personality. But also, if the number adds up to 22, it also adds up to 4. So your life card on a soul level is the Emperor. And you can find what card you are by just adding the numbers of your birth. So January is 1, 14, is a 5, so that makes a 6. 19, in my case, is a 10, so that makes a 16. 51 makes a 5, so it makes it 21, and a 1 makes it 22. So the numbers of my birth add up to 22, which is the 0 is the Fool card, but because if your number adds up to something above 22, you keep adding. But if it adds up to 22, then you're both the 0, the 22, and the 4, because 22 and 2 is 4. And the 4 is the Emperor. It takes a while to learn this stuff. It's math. It's the old math. But what made me chuckle inside was my 5 or 6-year-old boy that was looking at what the Fool card is, what its planet that the Fool is related to. And I'm just going to say it the way it appeared in my mind. Uranus. The planet of the Fool is Uranus. And you got to be mentally 5 or 6 years old to think that's really funny. But that's me sometimes, and that's somewhat definitive of the Fool. Now people say, no, it's Uranus. And I go, right. But the planet Uranus, I'm going to just do this as the Emperor maybe, or as the Reformed Fool, or the non-delinquent shaman. Uranus is about innovation, revolution, rebellion, and change. 0, the number of the Fool, is related to infinity, freedom, possibility, the beginning and the end. Keywords of the Fool are desire, profound trust in self. Not saying this is true of anyone who has the Fool as their life personality card. It's just the words that are written on a page, and one can go, oh, I didn't get that memo. I have a profound trust in self. And now that I think about it, I do. Because people all my life were telling me what reality is, and I was telling them, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just a stranger in a strange land. I don't grok what you're saying. You might want to read that book. It's pretty good. It has to do with fearlessness. It has to do with intuition. It has to do with new beginnings. Taking a chance without a full plan. That's me. Moving into the unknown with joy. I'm getting there. Seeing endless potential. I'm there. A fresh start. I'm there. An unknown journey. I'm there. Inexperience. I'm there. Freedom. Working on it. That's a conscious state of perception. And I'm working on it. Aspiration, I've got it. Risk, I've taken it. I'll continue to. So the emotions are beginning to rise. So I want you to understand, I work in the dream world. So that's a bed over there. You're seeing the end of the bed, right? Right there. It's the end of the bed. And that's where I sleep. Right over there. Except on, my head's on the other end of it. But by request, I set up a World Healing Field at the end of January 2020. And besides maybe a total of 7 days in the 5 years, I've had almost 5 years. I've had maybe 7 days off in the 5 years from grounding the disturbed energies of the World Healing Field. It is impressive. I'm just amazed I'm alive. It's been very challenging. Good portions of the time. But I've been to dream school for the last 14 years, possibly longer, learning from my friends, the teachers in the dream school, learning how to navigate the waters, navigate the emotions, navigate the land, navigate the winds, navigate the skies, navigate change to the best of my ability so that I can be here for you and help you navigate the changes that all of us are having to go through because the whole vibration of the planet is shifting. And I think the saying is sink or swim, and you might want to learn to tread water. You may want to keep your head above water, but water relates to the emotional realm. You might want to also dive under at some point and go into those emotions related to unresolved events in the past. Things have happened to people. Parents have left. Parents have died. Siblings have died. We've been transported to new areas and lost our friends that we had established in the area we were in, and then our parents moved to a new area and it was all new kids. We had to establish all new relationships. Those are minor traumas, but they are traumas. And some people integrate it and work with it, and then they're just moving forward. But some of the traumas are mind-boggling that they occurred. One person I know, his father committed suicide by hanging himself in the bedroom. And he was the one to discover that. Releasing that image. Releasing the emotions of that image. This is not going to be a time where I just talk about one trauma after another, because those of us who are visual are like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. No, it's about releasing them. So the dream world, where I do a lot of my work with the field, I do it during the day, I do it during the night. I get done with my night of sleep, if you could call it that, because I used to sleep really well, and now I sleep, and I feel rested a good portion of the time. But I feel like I wake up with, like this past few days, with this building tension that then I'm clearing, resolving, releasing, integrating, to just bring it down a little bit so it can be manageable for the energetics people are working with. And what it says in the first paragraph, those other ones, Uranus and the number 0 and the key words, are at the top of the page. And then the description, the information about the Fool comes in after that. So here it is. I've not read it before. I just got this book. Some dreams stay with us even after waking. Our eyes slowly open and we come back to the physical world. Yet our hearts linger in a fantasy that captivates our imagination, a spectral prospect that steals our breath and demands our focus. We may emerge slowly from slumber into our day, but pieces of our mind, heart, and soul have been left behind. I don't know that this is true. I'm just reading it. It's just it's Meg's construct. So I'm not saying it's true. I'm just reading it to gather this information and process it myself. So she says, but pieces of her mind, heart, and soul she says have been left behind, and I say may have been left behind. I'll add a may in there. Continue to explore this new possibility. So an aspect of ourself may stay in that creative place and keep working with those ideas. I can see that. I would just put it differently. Weeks slip by, but the mirage remains, coming into richer clarity, distracting us from our usual patterns and routine. What started as a vague whisper becomes an insistent obsession. I can relate to that. We may abandon, and I like to add may. We may abandon, because she just says we abandon, and I say we may abandon any thought of leaving this yearning behind, and instead embrace new details as they emerge, letting the potential grow. Oh, so she's saying we abandon any thought of leaving this yearning behind. So we're this creation. I think I started off talking about religion and spirituality, and the word just came back to me that in some religions they refer to God as the creator. Like this whole reality's been created by this possibly patriarchal male God. So all creation was created by the big guy. And just notice, not from a reactive, don't mess with my God. Think about this not from that reactive place, that if I talk about God or religion, that you might react to it, but you might not react to it and go, these are just some ideas that this person's suggesting. So it may be that we're just completing the 13,000 years half of the cycle, because it's 26,000 years that we go around the central sun. And we just completed this cycle of 13,000 years, and we've been in a 28-year cycle of cleansing of that 13,000 years before we go into the 13,000 years of the next cycle. The cycle we're coming out of is patriarchy. The cycle we're going into is matriarchy. These are constructs. They're not for sale. They're constructs. They're ideas. If they make sense to you that we're going into this matriarchal energy, this feminine power, if the feminine power is rising and we're going to be going into, like yin and yang, a 13,000 year period of time of the consciousness around the earth being feminine and the consciousness within the earth being masculine. This is a possibility. You might want to explore it. You might not. It's your choice. Explore these ideas or don't explore these ideas. But, I'm just going to say this because there's going to be somebody that goes, you're the Antichrist or whatever, And I'm like saying, If you have a lot of emotions tied into your religious constructs, your religious constructs are possibly based in a trauma, and possibly based in the trauma of this person, Jesus, who was hung on a cross and killed but came back. All these things. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying it did happen. I'm just saying that you may have a religion that's based on trauma, kind of, and it may be based on, oh, but he resolved the sins of the world by dying. And it's like, could be. These are all possibilities. Anything is possible. And you want to explore. And I'd say if you really want to explore consciousness and perceptions of reality, you might want to go to the open house that's happening in Dexter. And the I think the new spiritual healing center is called Angels something, but it might be Angels Wishes, but something. It's Angels something, and you can look it up and just put Angels Healing Dexter, Michigan, and boom, it'll come up. And it's, I think, from 10 to 6 is the open house, and I'm going to be there around 11:11 because I like the number. So, and my friend that I'm going with likes the number, and if it all works out, I'm going to try to bring my friend Kim along because I think it's a spiritual path that's much in line with what he and I have been talking about for 20 years. So it could work for him to go there and have a community of people who are growing spiritually and get his mind out of the programming of television news reports of like, we're going down, we're going down. It's like, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. Safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. Take a breath, take a breath, take a breath. You're supposed to repeat it 3 times. So if you hear, ask your doctor if this would be good for you. Ask your doctor if this would be good for you. Ask your doctor if this would be good for you. If it's good for you, ask your doctor. Sales. We may emerge slowly from slumber in our day, but pieces of our mind, heart, and soul may have been left behind. That's enough of that for now. I wanted to just read a little bit of The Fool, and I'm going to read, and then I'm not going to do this right now, but sometime I'll do this, read the first of the major arcana. So the Fool is first, but it's a 0. So the one that actually has a number, the first one that has a number is the number 1, and that's the Magician. Number 2 is the High Priestess. Number 3 is the Empress. Get used to it. She's coming, or she's here. And then the 4th is the Emperor. And its relationship to astrology is Aries, which is independent, motivation, determination, ambition. And Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and Pisces the last, is my understanding. I'm not an astrologer. And the Emperor is related to number 4, which has to do with structure, organization, systems, progression, foundations, and stability. I like all those words. And the keys words are control, discipline, organization, long-term planning, solid foundations, feeling worthy, knowledge of personal strengths, rules and regulations, leadership, experience, authority, caution, adaptation, challenging, taking ownership, and ambition. And when my wife, who is a tarot reader, she's the one that got me interested in tarot. I've been in relationship with her for 20 years. She got me interested in tarot, and probably 2 years or so, I got my own cards, I got my own book, and I began reading tarot for myself. And then the two women that I live with, my wife and my stepdaughter, began asking me to do readings for them. And it's all about, sensing the cards. So I began doing readings. They turned out to be very useful to them. And I began doing readings for others. And it's really about intuitive sensing of putting out the question the person would like answered, and then just seeing which card it is that comes out. So my wife did a tarot reading about the elections, and the card that she got for the person that was elected was the Emperor card. And that tended to be a triggering thing for her. I'm sure yeah. And the words are, in surveying the raw creative energy that we have released. And that's the words in my book, the new book I got. In thinking about our next steps, this may be a message, so it all could be a message. I'm not trying to make a message, but as I'm reading this, I'm going like, interesting. My wife drew the Emperor card related to Donald Trump. That's just interesting to me. And now it's interesting that I'm reading what it says in my book. And I just got a message on my computer, a text message from my wife, who I'm not supposed to talk about, but I think I'm not giving you too much information. I'm supposed to leave her out of my YouTube world, and so I might not be able to publish this because I mentioned her tarot card, but we'll see. I might have to ask her. We'll see what happens. In surveying the raw creative energy that we have released, in thinking about our next steps, we recognize a need for order, crave a framework that will help us stay true to our purpose and intent. And I would suggest that no matter what you think, if you think this is wonderful, this group of people got elected, and they're going to make our world great again, whatever you bought or just agree with the thought of, or you think, oh my goodness, the world's going to tank. I think those are the two sides. Thank goodness everything's going to be brought into the open. Everything's going to start working well. The boat's sinking. Those are maybe a little bit of an abbreviated version of the thoughts that are maybe out there between the two sides. The side that feels like it's won and the side that it feels like it's lost. And I would just say, it may be good to feel lost, because then you start exploring the options of finding something new where you don't feel lost. Our ideas clarify and sharpen a refining fire, transforming wild magic into foundations rooted in steady, stable earth. I may just make a video of this alone, so it'll be short and not 40 minutes like this one has once again become. Like who even? I'm the only person I'm sure that watches the whole video, sometimes a couple times. Our ideas clarify and sharpen a refining fire, transforming wild magic into foundations rooted in steady, stable earth. I love it. I love you, Meg. The seeds that have germinated. When was it? There was a yellow seed day. Was that 2 days ago? I've got the calendar right here. That was Friday. That was 2 days ago. It was a yellow seed day. Planting seeds for the new. Watering them with love. Tilling the soil with focus. Removing the weeds of discontent consistently, leading to the experience of joy, which will pass on to future generations. I didn't get it perfectly right, but that's the basic content of the yellow seed. But today, we're in a white solar world bridger. I was going to do a video about that, but I'm obviously not. And I think I included that in last night's video, so you can watch that 40-minute video. It's kind of silly. The seeds that have germinated must be protected, sheltered, organized into systems that make their care routine simple and clear. As we continue to create, as our ideas take up space and our future finds its footing, we project what we have made. We combine intellect and observation with hard work, awareness, deep understanding of existing structures that we can utilize as we think about how we want these seeds to grow and blossom. And that's the Emperor is my life card related to my soul purpose. And that just made it better. As painful as life has felt, much of the time in this lifetime, I have found my way to my heart. I'm like releasing the unresolved emotions from past experiences that felt traumatic. I feel like more and more I'm finding my people. And I'm really more and more living in my heart, more frequently in a state of love, more frequently in a state of joy, proving to myself that this is possible. Today I have great excitement to be with my people, many of whom I've just discovered yesterday, many of them who I discovered 40 years ago. And if my people, my old people, my new people, show up today, my heart's going to be open and just full, regardless who's there, because my heart's that way right now. And I'm going to carry that in to this opening of this new spiritual healing center in Dexter, Michigan, where I lived for so many years. peace. Nowmustgo. Bless you, everyone. We're doing this together. It's about completion.